So another thing that we'll cover every week here on the Reviewing Network Live is the biggest stories of the week, the big news stories of the week. And we'll try to keep it mostly through entertainment, news, movies, television. But on occasion, we'll talk about some other things, like if there's any big stories in the general news that we'll talk about, we'll delve into that. And today, one of those stories that I thought was kind of interesting that we could talk about here was the news about the NFL and HBO's Hard Knocks. Now, I do generally keep up to date with sports. Most is not on a huge level, but only the teams that I really care about. I live near Pittsburgh, so of course I got to follow the Steelers. I got to follow the Penguins. The Pirates, you're kind of an obligation because sometimes they make you think that they're going to be something great, and then all of a sudden they turn out to be pure crap like they are right now. But there are other teams I do keep a close ear on. There are other athletes I do keep a close ear on too as well. And we can delve into those once the show actually gets going. But today, Wednesday, July 12th, the news broke today that the NFL and NFL Films has selected the New York Jets to serve as this year's team for HBO's Hard Knocks. Now, if you don't know what HBO's Hard Knocks is, here's a little bit of a rundown of what that actually is. Hard Knocks is basically a show that follows a specific NFL team through its training camp and covers the team's preparation for the upcoming football season. And the show shows the personal and professional lives of the players, coaches, and staff. They include the family lives, position battles, inside jokes, and pranks. It usually focuses on the rookies' adjustments to playing in the NFL, usually with emphasis on the team's most recent top draft pick. And it usually also chooses to focus on the undrafted and journeyman players who attempt to make the team as well. This is a show that's been on the air since 2001. They've covered a ton of different teams. The first team they ever covered was the Baltimore Ravens. They've covered teams like the Dallas Cowboys, the Kansas City Chiefs, Cincinnati Bengals. For the Jets, this is the second time that they'll be on the air because they did them in 2010. The Miami Dolphins, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Atlanta Falcons, the Houston Texans, the Rams, the Buccaneers, the Browns, Raiders, Chargers and Rams, Cowboys, Colts, Lions, Cardinals, and those last two, the Colts and the Cardinals, were the in-season spinoff shows that they did for Hard Knocks. But as I said, that today it was announced that the New York Jets will once again be the centerpiece of this season of Hard Knocks, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. And of course, the Jets have the biggest story going on this offseason in the NFL because they, of course, traded for four-time MVP Aaron Rodgers. This is his first time playing for a different team besides the Green Bay Packers. And it will continue during training camp when the cameras will be rolling in full force that will chronicle the team's experience getting ready for the 2023 seasons. Now, the teams that, for the people that have to be on Hard Knocks, they have to be eligible. They have these eligibility things that they need to have in there. They eliminate teams that have first-year head coaches, teams that qualify for the playoffs the past two seasons, and teams that have appeared in the past 10 seasons. So that kind of leveled it down to four teams as possibilities, including the Jets and the Bears, the New Orleans Saints, the Washington Commanders, and right now the Jets coach Robert Saleh has not confirmed that his team does not want to be featured on the show, but the news is right now that it is going to happen, that the Jets will be the team that eventually will be picked, even though there were some rumors that the Lions may be considered for a second season this time, as after being on last year. They haven't announced when this is going to premiere yet, but the usually begins in August, right as the preseason games get underway, and the Jets will start their preseason games at the Hall of Fame game, which will be on, I believe it's Thursday, August 3rd, against the Cleveland Browns. And this is the most interesting story of the NFL offseason, mostly because of the addition of Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets. There's a lot of high expectations for the Jets to be better with Aaron Rodgers now there, even though they still have their first-round quarterback from a couple years ago, Zach Wilson, there. They are clearly in a win-now situation by trading a king's ransom of picks for Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers could be a pretty good success for the New York Jets. I mean, he could be a success, but they have to look back at the past and see what happened when other teams did it that ended up not working out the way they wanted it to. Specifically, of course, I'm talking about what happened last year with Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. Now, of course, the big story last offseason in 2022 was the fact that Russell Wilson wanted out of Seattle. He wanted to go play somewhere else. And on a couple days into free agency last year, the Seahawks traded Russell Wilson in a fourth-round pick to the Denver Broncos. And the Broncos in exchange got 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a 5th-round pick, their quarterback Drew Lock, who they drafted in 2019, defensive lineman Shelby Harris, and tight end Noah Fant, who they also got in 2019. And many people thought the Seahawks got fleeced by the Broncos. Everyone was, as soon as the Broncos announced that Russell Wilson was coming to them, everyone was already setting themselves up for them to be back in the Super Bowl and to win the AFC West. The Kansas City Chiefs era was done for. Like there was a whole lot of things about that last year that they overhyped the AFC West so much that I knew right from the get-go that the Chiefs were going to win that division again and probably make another Super Bowl round because, I mean, yeah, if the Broncos got better with Russell Wilson being there, they made the big deal about the Raiders trading for Devontae Adams, and that was supposed to make them a whole lot better. The Chargers, everyone wants them to be back there, and I mean everybody, I mean the NFL, because I still have my theories about the Los Angeles Rams being gift-wrapped the Super Bowl in 2021, but there was a lot of belief that this was going to change the AFC West a lot. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, the biggest thing to happen there was that they lost Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins. The Dolphins agreed to a trade that brought Tyreek Hill to Miami, and everyone thought that, well, Chiefs are done for, even though Travis Kelce is still there, even though Patrick Mahomes is still the quarterback, even though he's still one of the best quarterbacks playing in the game right now. But no, everybody's just like, move out the way, Chiefs. Everybody else is coming in on you. And lo and behold, look at what happened. Chiefs not only were the best team in the AFC West again last year, but they eventually won the Super Bowl. And really, nobody should be surprised by that whatsoever. I mean, but who cares about that? Russell Wilson's coming to the Denver Broncos. Everybody should be really excited for when Russell Wilson takes the field for the Broncos. I mean, it's going to be a party. It's going to be like the Peyton Manning era all over again. Yeah, a couple things that people completely forgot about what happened there. First of all, Russell Wilson is in a brand new system. And the fact that he did not play a single snap in the preseason, like, you don't even need to play him for an entire game. I'm just saying, like, you need to give him, is for a new team, you should be giving him at least some reps so he can get adjusted to that system, a different system. Because this is a different system than the one in Seattle that he's been so accustomed to. I mean, you can't just push him off on week 1 and say that, okay, now he's ready to go. Like, he's ready to go off the bat. I mean, that's the thing that really irked me about them not giving him any preseason snaps whatsoever. It's just like, no, you go in there week 1 and you give us everything that we think you're going to give us, no matter what. Like, we don't even care that you. It's like we don't even care if we give you any snaps. You're going to be ready for week 1. And then what happened in week 1 when he goes back home against Seattle? I mean, right from the get-go, you can just tell that this team was so off because Russell Wilson wasn't getting adjusted to the system. He hadn't played in that game that actually mattered, and of course you can blame the coaching. You can blame the coaching of Nathaniel Hackett too, that was bad on its own level. But the Broncos looked horrible for much of the year. I mean, they did not. There was not a convincible win for them whatsoever in the 5 games they won of a 17-game season. I mean, that's just. Like, I still don't understand what the hell they were thinking, not giving him any time to get adjusted to the system, not giving him any time to do this, and just continuing to pretend like it's going to all work together. I mean, hey, Tom Brady made it all come together after a slow start for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but there was a big difference there. Tom Brady at least played in some preseason games. Matthew Stafford played in some preseason games last year for the Rams. Deshaun Watson played in some preseason games for the Browns last year, so they had to get adjusted to the system. But with Russell Wilson, they were just like, push him out there and just watch what happens. It's going to be glorious. And it was glorious, but not for the reasons they wanted it to be. And I don't think any game speaks that kind of a strong point than the Christmas Day massacre against the Los Angeles Rams. Like, when you're getting embarrassed when Patrick Starr is embarrassing you on national television, that's as low as you can possibly get. And the Broncos right now are currently stuck right now, and to think that the Seattle Seahawks, who everyone thought was going to get fleeced in this deal by trading him away to Denver, everybody thought that the Broncos are going to clean this up easily. They're going to win this trade easily. And look what happened. The Seahawks not only made the playoffs last year, Geno Smith got a whole lot better, but most importantly, they got 2 first-round picks that they used, and they got the best cornerback in the draft, Devin Witherspoon, and they also got a good wide receiver in Jackson Njigba from Ohio State, and they're looking pretty good right now going into next season. So that's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. I don't know if this is going to be like a one-time miracle thing that nobody expects Geno Smith to be any good, and he just shows everybody that, hey, I can still do this. And then people realize that, oh, this is just Geno Smith. We can find ways to actually get rid of it, is to figure out what to do here. But with Russell Wilson, the big thing is that he's got a new head coach, a better head coach than Nathaniel Hackett now, Sean Payton coming in. So one would think it's going to get better. Like, one would think it's going to get a lot better than it was last year. We won't know for certain until the games actually matter. So, but that does bring me back to what the Jets are doing right now with Aaron Rodgers, and why I think that the Jets should try to avoid every single thing that the Broncos did last year that caused them to have such a terrible season last year. The most important thing is that you got to have Aaron Rodgers actually playing in some of these preseason games. You don't have to put him in you don't have to put him in for a full game, but you have to let him get adjusted to that system if you're going to if you're going to try to avoid the failures that Russell Wilson had last year. You have to be able to put him in there, because they're hyping the Jets up like they did last year with the Denver Broncos. I mean, a lot of people are still hyping them up. Maybe not as much as they were last year, but the Jets have 5 out of 6. They have 5 primetime games next year. If I'm checking the numbers here right, yeah, 5 primetime games next year. So there's a lot of high hopes for this team going into the season coming up. So, like, the Jets right now, they're in a sticky situation, trying to avoid what happened with Denver last year. If I'm Robert Saleh, I'm planning to get Aaron Rodgers some time in the game, the preseason game, so that he can adjust to the system and get a better connection with all those playmakers on there. And I think he's going to find success that way if they actually do it that way, and avoid what happened last year with the Denver Broncos, where they just threw him in on week 1 and say, okay, do what you want to do, man. Like I'd have to think Aaron Rodgers is smart enough to know this. Aaron Rodgers has to be smart enough to tell Robert Saleh, hey, man, you got to let me have some of this games in here, man. You got to let me come in here and play some of this. And one would hope that's going to be the case. I'm not sure. We're going to have to wait and see. We're about a couple weeks away from actually figuring this out. But, of course, the Jets, they have not been in the playoffs since Mark Sanchez took them to the AFC Championship game in 2010, where they, of course, lost to my Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's been 13. It's going to be 13 years, 14 years, actually. No, 13 years, because the championship game would have been 2011 that year when the Jets were in their last. So it's going to be 13 years since they've been in the playoffs. And one would think that they're doing whatever it takes to get them back on track here. But like I said, in order to have this be a success, you have to have Aaron Rodgers get into these preseason games early on. You don't have to put him in, like I said, for a full game. You can still put him in for like a quarter of football, like they do with every other quarterback in the preseason games. You get a quarter each game, and then in the last game you give him more than half. You give him more than half the game and to play in, and it's all about getting adjusted to that system that they have there. It's about getting adjusted and making sure you're in connection with your playmakers on that field. And I think if they do that, they're going to have it's going to be a much smoother transition for the New York Jets than it was for Russell Wilson last year with the Denver Broncos. I mean, that's something that really is something that I've thought about from the moment that Aaron Rodgers got traded there. I'm thinking to myself, if Aaron Rodgers is going to have any success with the Jets, they're going to have to do everything that the Broncos failed to realize last year. They have to realize what their situation is. They have to let Aaron Rodgers play in some preseason games, and they have to let him get adjusted to that new system, because you can't just throw somebody into a new system on week 1 and just ask for instant success. I mean, Robert Saleh is a pretty good coach. He's gotten the Jets off to a better start. He got the Jets off to a great start last year, but they fell off. It wasn't because of Zach Wilson's fault, honestly. Like, I don't think it was straight up his fault. I just don't think they really had a clear idea of how to stay as good as they did in the second half of the season than they did in the first half of the season, because they were like 6-3 when is last year in the first half of the season. Yeah, their peak was 7-4. They didn't win another game after the Chicago Bears game on Thanksgiving weekend. And I don't know if you should blame Zach Wilson on that. I don't know. But then again, also the New York is a much more volatile area to play sports in than Denver is. Like, New York. The New York crowd there, they do not like it if you do not win games that you should win easily. And after that strong start, I can see why they were disappointed by the end result of the second half of the season, which you expect that this is going to be better results here for the Jets overall this season with Aaron Rodgers coming in, but we'll see, man. Like, this is going to be a very, very interesting offseason, a very interesting season overall, and I think it's going to be interesting to see them on Hard Knocks to see if they're taking some of these, if they're really looking at this and thinking to themselves, okay, how do we avoid to not have a disaster like what happened with Russell Wilson? So it's going to be very interesting to watch this year's season of Hard Knocks when that happens. So I saw that news today. I wanted to make a quick video on a breaking news update to kind of give you an idea of what we'll talk about on the Reviewing Network Live. Like I said, we'll talk about the news of the week, and I thought maybe the big news coming at around this time would be the news that the actors' strike is going on, but as of right now, at the time of recording this, at 1:13 on July 13th, there has been no confirmation just yet that the strike is going to happen, even though it's kind of looking like it's going to. We probably won't know about that until tomorrow morning, on Thursday morning, but this is being recorded late Wednesday night, so once again, I wanted to cover a story that was in the news today, and this was one of the big ones. The Jets are going to be on Hard Knocks, and it's going to be very interesting to see how the Jets handle it with Aaron Rodgers there. So, if you're Jets fans out there, let me know your thoughts down below. Do you kind of agree with me? Do you think Aaron Rodgers should get adjusted to the system first before they put him in there in Week 1 and let him play in preseason games, or how do you think they should handle this? So, let me know your thoughts down below. If you're a sports fan in general, let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think I'm on the right path here? And if you like what you see here, check out some of the other videos. We have our full episode preview coming up on August the 6th, as well as the series premiere of the Reviewing Network Live coming up on Labor Day weekend, Sunday, September the 3rd. So be on the lookout for that, and I will see you guys next time. Until then, take care.